Hey everyone, it's Miss Queen Crypto, and I am back again for another weekly episode of Friday Block Talk. In case you didn't notice, I am indeed in a new location, not just a new location, a new hemisphere. This is my first time traveling to Asia. I am currently in Bali, Indonesia, which is pretty darn wild, but it also makes recording a video a little bit more difficult than normal, but I'm excited to do it. I'm excited to dive into some crypto stuff while I'm on vacation, which is going to be really nice. And in the spirit of travel, I wanted to talk about some old news basically, but just crypto news from around the world, like globally, what is the consensus on Bitcoin? How do different regions compare? And like, what are the headliners for the main countries that we talk about when we talk about Bitcoin? So a lot of this, I'm sure the minute I say the country, you'll know exactly what I'm going to talk about, but just thought it would be a nice little compilation, an easy little thing to do. So with that, let's get into it. Probably the biggest thing that has happened when we're talking about global crypto and like global Bitcoin adoption is making Bitcoin legal tender in a country. And El Salvador was indeed the first country to do that. And I know personally that was really big news for me because it was kind of the first news that in my crypto journey where I was like, holy cow, this is a huge moment. This is like a big first. Because a lot of the time when you're investing in something and when you're learning about it, it's easy to get caught up in all of the, oh, I wish I had been there for that. I wish I had been able to see that in real life. And you end up just reading about it. And so for me, that was a moment where I was like, oh my gosh, I'm actually witnessing history. Like, this is a huge first for the entire world. And I was just so excited to be reading about all of the stuff that had to do with actually making it legal tender in El Salvador. And if you didn't know, this is recent news. As of April 28th is when like the article that I saw stated, but the Central African Republic has been the second country to make Bitcoin like actual legal tender. So it's really cool that we have two completely different continents that are doing it. It's not just like all of the countries that are nearby El Salvador are picking it up, but it's like case studies at different pinpoints around the world that are taking this plunge. So hopefully that means we will see a spread from both of those points and hopefully a couple of more that can lead to a very global market and a global legalization of Bitcoin as tender. But I think it's really, really notable that they're so far and almost disconnected. It's not like a predictable second. So when I just found that out a couple of days ago, I thought that that was really, really interesting, and I was excited to hear that. But I think that that was some of the biggest crypto news that I got to hear during the past almost 2 years now that I've been involved in this space. On the opposite side of the spectrum, there are currently 9 countries that have a total ban on crypto, and that includes Bitcoin. And China is like the front runner of that. They're kind of the main advocate against it. I know at the beginning of the year, there was talks from Russia's central bank about banning cryptocurrency and banning Bitcoin, but I haven't personally seen anything since then about it. I'm not super up to date on my Russian news, but I didn't see anything about it, and I feel like that would have been notable, but I could have been just completely ignorant to the fact, so maybe I'm totally in the wrong here, but China right now is the biggest country that has a ban on Bitcoin, and that was another one of those things. I'm not sure if I was super involved yet with Bitcoin when the whole China ban was going on, especially when it came to mining, but I do remember that being like a very big deal, and people were definitely talking about it. I'm not sure if I was on Twitter at that point, but after knowing that I heard discourse about it, I must have been. But regardless of the fact, I know that that was kind of a scary moment for a lot of people in this community to have such a global superpower, like say no to Bitcoin and just completely like kill it in their country. And obviously with the decentralization thing, it's difficult. It's a difficult thing to ban, and it's absolutely not like a perfect ban. There are obviously people in China that are able to use Bitcoin, but it's definitely not as accessible as it is in countries where there isn't a ban. Crazy to believe. which, whatever. But I know that kind of sent shockwaves, and it was worrying that other countries would follow and kind of take their lead and agree with them. And I'm glad that the number is currently only 9. Obviously, only 2 have it as legal tender, but 9 having it banned for how fastly and quickly it's kind of taken over and become this huge deal. I feel like that's a pretty valid amount for not wanting to deal with that volatility in their country. But yeah, they are the 2 sides of the spectrum there. A point that's kind of in the middle of the last 2 is, this is very recent, as in the past couple of weeks, but the European Union has been discussing cryptocurrency legislation, but not necessarily a ban. The goal of the legislation, from what I've gathered, is to help the experience of users and also to help aid the development of cryptocurrencies, while also curbing the threats a little bit and reducing the threats that it poses to the users. So I haven't actually read any of the legislation myself. I haven't gone in and really stuck in it, but it seems like hopefully it won't be super intense and rigorous, but I honestly have no idea. I couldn't tell you with the European Union. That's not a governing body that I have to deal with on a day-to-day, but I know a part of that has to do with the environmental impact of Bitcoin, which I talked about last week. So it'll definitely be interesting to see how that plays into their legislation with crypto, because I know that that's one of their leading concerns with the current situation that we have. So maybe it'll be changes to mining rigs that are running in the European Union, but I thought that was an interesting point to share because I had recently come across that and thought it was really interesting. A couple of weeks ago when I was with my cousin, we discussed the Biden executive order as it pertains to crypto, and we were saying that it doesn't really have much of an impact on us and our daily use of Bitcoin. It's just something to keep an eye on if we see more legislation coming from any administration, but especially this administration. Just something to be a little bit wary of, but not overly cautious and not too concerned. And that's pretty much stayed true. I haven't personally seen anything more, and I know most of the cryptocurrency regulation in the United States varies by state to state, and it doesn't necessarily have as much to do with personal daily use as it does with larger corporations, which I've learned a lot through with the whole Embily process of them trying to get approved for use in the United States. But personally, I haven't had any issues using Bitcoin in the United States, and especially in Florida, which I think is a little bit more liberal when it comes to regulations around cryptocurrency. In honor of my own travels, I wanted to do a little bit of research on what the crypto scene in Indonesia was and how Bitcoin was used and how popular it was in this country. Because in the airport, I didn't really see anything crypto related, and on the drive to our hotel, I really didn't see much in way of Bitcoin, Bitcoin ATMs or anything. So I was curious if it was even a thing. But it turns out Indonesia kind of views Bitcoin as the next big thing. It's starting to even overtake stocks when we're talking about investment options, which is pretty wild. From 2020 to 2021, the case of Bitcoin use in Indonesia increased by 14 times, which is pretty insane, especially because only about 4% of Indonesian citizens actually use Bitcoin. So that's pretty darn wild that it's increasing that much, and it shows that there's a lot of room for growth, but also that there's an upward trajectory there. The one thing is, Bitcoin isn't really accepted as payment in very many places here. That's still something that's not as popularized, because I was kind of hoping that we'd be out to lunch and it would be payable in Bitcoin at one of these little restaurants, and I'd be able to be like, don't worry, I got it, and just impress everyone. But sadly, that has not happened yet. But it's okay. I'll keep my eyes peeled and I'll get back to you on whether or not I'm able to do that. But I'm not keeping my hopes up based on what I've researched about the actual use case of Bitcoin in Indonesia. But But until I give you that update, I think that's a good place to leave it. Before next week, I think I'm going to try and find a better setup. The lighting here isn't spectacular, but don't worry. It'll be a different location, still in Bali, next time I record. But hopefully we'll have the lighting figured out a little bit better. If you stayed to the end of the video, I appreciate it very much. Thank you, and I truly hope you enjoyed it. If you did, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the Embily channel to see more videos. They're posted every single Friday. And if you want to see more content from me and some exciting, awesome, fun Bali photos, then you should totally follow me on Twitter at Miss Queen Crypto. But that's it for this week. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.